Hello everyone, I'm Michael Serapio. Well, today was the deadline given to Justin Trudeau by members of his own caucus to step down for the good of the party and make way for a new leader. For over a year, the Liberals have been trailing Conservatives by about 20 points in the polls, and disaffected Liberal MPs say it is time the Prime Minister read the tea leaves and stepped down before electoral disaster. But despite a reportedly emotional caucus meeting last Wednesday, Justin Trudeau is not leaving, nor is he saying much about how he will respond to the concerns expressed.
I don't think he can be convinced.
Why not?
Ask him. He's convinced he's the right guy. I think he's getting bad advice.
I think the way to move forward for the sake of party unity is to hold a secret ballot vote. I think that's the best thing for the party and for the country. I think a secret ballot vote is something that could unify caucus, unify the party, but also a secret ballot allows members of Parliament to vote without fear of repercussions or consequences. So what I would say is that, and I think the focus should be on whether Justin Trudeau should lead us into the next election.
Well, joining us now is New Brunswick Liberal MP Long. Mr. Long, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So today was the deadline for reflection that you, along with other Liberal MPs, gave to the Prime Minister. But rather than stepping down, Justin Trudeau continues to signal that he will stay and lead the party into another campaign. What's next then?
Well, it's a good question. I think it's $1 million question. But I think from our standpoint, just to go back, I think that, it's been reported, but I think there was a heartfelt, expression of solidarity amongst, the 20 to 30 of us, if you will, at caucus, that the Prime Minister should step down. We think it's best for him. We think it's best for the party. We think that history will be extremely kind to the Prime Minister, and I think his legacy is secure. That being said, we claim to be a party of data and science. Well, show me a poll, show me anything that says that he's, the best person to lead the Liberal Party into the next election. And, we're bigger than one person. We're bigger than certainly a backbencher, but we're certainly also bigger than a Prime Minister. So, we expected him to step down. We did put a date. Obviously, today is that date. So, people are kind of wondering, well, what happens next? Well, from our standpoint, we had hoped that he would take the weekend and reflect, and give an honest reflection. I certainly was reported over the weekend pleading with the Prime Minister to step back and get away from his inner circle and actually talk to Canadians, talk to his friends. He's got great friends in cabinet. He's got great friends in caucus that certainly go beyond just being a minister or, an MP. And we were hoping that he would really get away and reflect and realize what's best for him, what's best for the party. We do not want to turn, obviously, the keys of government over to Pierre Poilievre. We think that would be disastrous for Canada, but certainly we're on that trajectory. So we had hoped today that there would be a reach back from the Prime Minister to us, especially to those who had called for him to step down. And maybe there was a discussion that, obviously one would be he would step down. Mm-hmm. 2, he would tell us absolutely not. And 3, maybe there would be look, I've thought about this, I understand, and let's at least embark on a further discussion or a process to change leadership. But, for us to do what we did, which, I'm an MP with a bit of experience and some battle scars. So for me to, address the Prime Minister directly I wouldn't say it's never easy, but I'm okay with it. But it took a lot of courage from a lot of my colleagues to do that. So we expected more than just yes, I'm going to continue on. I didn't think that was fair. And it also makes me wonder who around him would actually think that was a good idea. Who wouldn't say, hey, Prime Minister, hey, Justin, you owe it to these members of Parliament to actually have another sit down with them so they can discuss, so you can discuss with them directly. But, I think, sadly, it's somewhat symptomatic of what happens at in a party that's 9 years old. I think sometimes backbench MPs that try to have a voice, that voice isn't heard and they're taken for granted. And I think this is another prime example of that.
Well, instead of the weekend, he took about 18 hours before deciding he would stay on. Does that say anything to you about the openness with which he approached that meeting or the advice that he's getting from his immediate circle?
Well, look, I mean, the Prime Minister is clearly convinced that he is the best person to lead the party, and he is the best person to take on Pierre Poilievre in an upcoming general election. Now, clearly, there was 24 people that had the courage to sign the letter. There was probably 20 of us that stood up at caucus. And let's keep it real. There's double that. There's probably upwards of 50 members that feel the Prime Minister needs to step down. Nobody's jumping for joy. Nobody's wringing their hands with glee about this, but we think it's what's best for the party. We also think that, look, let's just put this to bed and have a private or a secret vote, secret ballot at caucus as to what members really think. And if everybody is so confident that the Prime Minister has the support of his caucus, let's just put it to a vote. Let's get it over with and vote and see what happens.
Well, your colleague Yvonne Baker has said as much today that he'd like to see a secret ballot that be the next step here. But in terms of any type of communication, have you heard anything at all from the Prime Minister or from people that are close to him about what his potential next steps might be to answer your concerns?
No.
So how do you feel then? Disrespected? Insulted? How are you feeling this moment?
I just feel, sadly, I'm not surprised. I don't think a lot of us are surprised at the response. I mean, look, the Prime Minister is a fighter. The Prime Minister is combative. I heard the same things. I heard people say that about Kathleen Wynne in May of 2018, too, that the Premier was a fighter and combative. Well, we know where that story ended up, and we don't want that story to end up the same way here. We feel that Pierre Poilievre is absolutely beatable. We feel that there's a lot of cracks in that armor, but what is happening right now is that people don't see that. People only see their dislike of the Prime Minister. It's really too bad because he shouldn't be disliked the way he is, but sometimes your political candle, your wick gets burned out. We are heading into our 10th year. That's a long time in Canadian politics. So, we had just hoped the Prime Minister would recognize that, celebrate what he's done, celebrate the wonderful leadership he's given the country and us as Liberal members over the last, 9 years and 2 months, whatever that number is, and, ride off into the sunset. He wants to fight and hang on to that position, lead the party into the next election. So it's up to us now as MPs that voice our concern as to what we want to do. So
is that sitting as independents, leaving the Prime Minister? And what does that look like?
I mean, it could be a variety of things. I mean, clearly, MPs can put up the white flag and say, hey, we tried, I tried, and I'm just going to put my head down, sit in the back row, and, get ready for the next election. I know there was some MPs musing about, non-confidence votes and things like that. I'm not into that. I don't want to defeat our government. That goes against, I think, really what we want to do. And then the other option would be to sit as an independent, maybe step away from caucus. I'll just talk to you personally. I don't want to be a constant negative voice. I don't want to be somebody who, when colleagues see coming, they're like, oh, here he comes again, or here he goes again, and be a negative force, certainly on the party. So, there is an option where maybe it's best to take that proverbial ball and sit as an independent. It's something I think that, I'm looking at. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but I'm saying there's obviously a point in time where, as we all know, like you can't remove a prime minister that doesn't want to be removed in our system. I mean, I think we kind of sealed that our own fate when we, didn't vote for the Reform Act, and it is what it is. If this prime minister wants to stay, there's very, very little levers we can pull to change that, except talk more and ask for a secret ballot. I think that is the way once and for all to end this.
Well, we are watching, Wayne. I appreciate the time today. Thank you for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Pleasure.
That's Wayne Long.